17 likely Seattle voters who they talked to between October 12th and 15th, so last week. And he says, so that's a double. So going into the primary, by the way, Lorena Gonzalez in that crowded Bruce Harrell in that crowded field had an 8-point lead over his next closest opponent at the time, which was Lorena Gonzalez. Now that lead with just the two of them is 16 points and far fewer undecided voters, just a few of the undecided. But he says, don't count Lorena Gonzalez out just yet.
Lorena Gonzalez is also back to country. So it's going to be a very interesting finish. We are seeing basically like voters of color, older voters, a lot of different groups are committing to Harrell's candidacy. There's more enthusiasm. But it's not over. Of respondents say they're voting for Davison. 24% say they're voting for Thomas Kennedy. Nicole Thomas Kennedy is the other candidate. And 30% are not sure. 2% would not vote. Very significant lead for Davison. And it appears that Nicole Thomas Kennedy's tweets have closed the door for many voters to considering her candidacy and opened the door for Davison.
You don't want Ann Davison? I need an explanation.
You can imagine the news. Can you imagine the amount of great stories we get to rail on every single day? Heather on her own beds with some knucklehead like, was her NTD? What's her name?
Oh, NTK. And so that's, so to be clear, NTK was in the lead in this race, and she's now trailing significantly.
I wanted her. That's what I wanted.
Oh, I got it.
Yeah, because she's
John's a troublemaker.
She's nuts. I've often said I want Seattle to go as progressive all the way. I mean, all the way.
To right the ship eventually. Right?
No, not to right the ship, to sink the ship. Just so that everybody get a chance to really experience what it's like to have complete and absolute progressive socialism just all the way. Let's see it, because we never really got a chance. Oh, communism would have worked, but it never got a real chance. Let's really give it a chance. You get someone like that in there who wasn't going to, wasn't going to convict anybody, and basically no one's going to go to jail. That would have been great. How far behind is she? 16 points?
Yeah, so let me do that. 43-24. 43%.
Come on, you anarchists. Come on, you anarchists.
Undecided, though.
Put down those pipe bombs and get out there and vote for this woman.
So I'm assuming
ballots come into play on this one.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm assuming, Hannah, that if Seattle is very liberal, and only in Seattle would Harrell be considered the conservative candidate and Sarah Nelson be considered the conservative candidate. I get that, but I'm just assuming that Harrell and Nelson. I haven't heard any Nikita Oliver Nelson numbers, but my guess is that it's going to be a sweep of the moderates as opposed to the more progressive or radical. Again, by Seattle standards. Is that?
You're going to make me jump to the end to my final. I'll go ahead.
This is not how we rehearsed this.
I must have missed the rehearsal.
Yes, you weren't.
We don't have to jump ahead.
Jacob played you. By the way, Jacob, next time you play Tom, don't forget.
Jacob, you need to work harder.
You do need to work harder.
Jacob, you need to work harder.
Here we go.
You lag. I asked Andrew Villeneuve at the end of our conversation, what's your take? What do you think? Is it all going to go left, all going to go right?
Yeah.
He said he doesn't think, he thinks the narrative is that it's going to be mixed.
There are a lot of different factors that go into what people do when they're choosing candidates, but I think one of them is that people would like some diversity in their city government. So Nikita's going to represent one perspective, Bruce and Ann and either Teresa or Ken another perspective. Ken Wilson doesn't have a background like in Seattle City Hall and in government or even politics of City Hall. Like, he's just not a frequent fixture at City Hall. So if he were to be elected, that would be very interesting, wouldn't it? But you could also see Teresa Mosqueda stay there. But either way, you have these three other races where voters could do interesting and different things. And those things might not seem like they're in harmony with each other, but that might be the point.
Right, so he's saying he thinks it'll be mixed. Like we could see Harold, Nikita, and
Davis.
And then who knows at the Mosqueda race.
I see. Oh, yeah, because the last thing I heard was Mosqueda was way ahead. She had
I
like...
have more on that too.
Okay,
Tom,
fantastic.
You're killing my thunder, Tom.
I'm pitching. It's a slow pitch to her. I'm moving her along.
No idea I'm actually listening. I'll tell you that. Okay, so yeah, last we heard Teresa Mosqueda was sailing to victory.
Yeah.
And there might be a few bumps in the road, he says.
Okay.
Let's do Seattle City Council 8 first, because this is a bit of a surprising result. You might think Teresa Mosqueda is simply on track for re-election, but our poll finds that she only has 39%, which is fairly low for an incumbent. She's the only incumbent on the general election ballot, actually. With only two choices left, Kenneth Wilson is the only other person whose name is beyond the ballot next to Teresa Mosqueda, so a lot of voters are intrigued, I think, by his candidacy. And he's not a typical candidate. He's a bridge engineer who is offering some unusual ideas for how to get traffic moving in Seattle. He's talking about reopening the West Seattle Bridge early. Those are things that people are interested in, and I think that people are just taking a look at his candidacy. So again, an 8-point gap between Teresa Mosqueda and Kenneth Wilson, 39% for Mosqueda, 31% for Wilson. Remember, Wilson only polled at 1% in our July survey.
Yeah.
So he's making up some ground, and again, I'm telling you, who's the last transportation candidate, right? You've got this guy running on some traffic ideas, how to ease traffic, how to open the West Seattle Bridge early. That's the kind of stuff people care about. I think in certain cases.
So in this case, though, then I think that might support my idea that there may be like a more moderate sweep. If Teresa Mosqueda actually is, now that race is tightened significantly, this might be more of a sweep. So the only numbers we don't have are, what numbers do you have for Nikita Oliver's Sarah Nelson race?
Well, and I'll take them out of order since you ruined my display. But here you go.
This is the closest race in the city between Sarah Nelson and Nikita Oliver. This is the one that people are going to be paying the most attention to.
Come on, Oliver.
It's very exciting. What we find is that Sarah Nelson currently has a 4-point lead over Nikita Oliver. That's within the modeled margin of error. So 41% for Sarah Nelson, 37% for Nikita Oliver, 21% not sure, 2% would not vote. So this is very interesting. Nikita Oliver, of course, won the top 2 election in the late ballots, came from behind despite not having the most support on election night, was able to overtake Sarah Nelson and end up first place in the top 2 election. The same thing could easily happen again, because as we see, Nikita Oliver's
Their license plate. You can put these dark shield things on the plate. There's all sorts of stuff that they can sell. You get it offline, where when the camera takes a picture of it, it flashes back at the camera and causes distortion.
Really?
Yeah, really. Why not?
Well, I bet you, of course, we disapprove of this, right, John?
No, I'm not promoting that, but if you want to get one of those things, I can tell you where to get them on Amazon.
They probably aren't legal.
When they advertise it, they say this doesn't totally obscure. I don't understand the value of having a dark covering over your license plate other than to create it to be an obscure
slow northbound 405 from 520 into Kirkland, a little off and on up to Bothell. Then you're really thick Bothell up into Canyon Park, Bellevue to Everett right now running 46 minutes. Northbound I-5, not too bad. Starts to get pretty thick shoreline to Mount Lake Terrace. Then pretty